Hi, welcome to Fireside Chats, Dr. Dorothy. I'm always glad when you're here. I always hope that I have a message that resonates with your mind, body, spirit, and that you'll remember the lesson therein. We just finished our Miracles lunch event, number 1, and I specifically did on my daddy's birthday, September 3rd, because it was a divine appointment. You know, I was reading this book with my husband in our gratitude journal time, and I kept saying, oh, I just love this book. I love this book, A Million Little Miracles by Mark Batterson. He's the pastor of National Community Church in Washington, D.C. And one of the reasons I think that it made such an impression on me is I've worked near the Capitol Hill. And I know the atmosphere there. It's very charged. It's very stressed. People sort of lose sight of what's really important. What matters at the end of the day? What matters at the end of your life when you've run out of time? And A Million Little Miracles is all about everyday miracles that occur around us. And we so often just think, oh, that was a coincidence, or that was deja vu, and we just mark it off. But one of my favorite sayings is, there are no coincidences. It's God's way of remaining anonymous. So when I decided that, well, I didn't decide. I was in my prayer chair where I start every morning. And in Psalm 46:10, he says, be still and know. One of the best gifts I've given myself is to start each day intentionally in my prayer chair. It is a designated chair. It was my grandmother's rocking chair. And I learned through John Maxwell that we need to have a designated place and a designated time to be still and listen for God's guidance. So at the end of that book, I was saying, I love this book. The last chapter, I said, I love this book. And I think it has equaled or surpassed my favorite book of all time, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's that deeply insightful. It is that divinely ordained. And when I said that last chapter, God spoke to me and said, teach it. So this past Wednesday was our first lunch experience. And I'm going to share just one little miracle story from that event. I had a lady registered that I'd not yet met, but I knew from her previous registration text that she was very excited about the opportunity to come and be part of our Million Little Miracles lunch. When she came in the room that day, she came over, and one of my goals for that day was to just make people feel a sacred pause. And we were in a sacred place. We were in New Jerusalem Community Church, Fellowship Hall, here in Sierra Vista, Arizona. And I never imagined that I would host an event, a lunch event. It was a gift to the community to give back some of the gifting that I have received in my life. Having served as a military wife, I found it a very challenging lifestyle. But this lady came in, and she'd had a challenging morning. And she said, I hugged her, and she said, I'm so glad to be here. I didn't think I was going to get here. I just had to put my son in the hospital, and I just left him. Tears started down her face, and she said, I'm so sorry. She said, I'm sorry, I may cry all the way through. And I said, don't be ashamed of your tears. One of my favorite quotes is, tears are the safety valve of the heart when too much pressure is applied. There's no shame in tears. And I hugged her. There was her son that she had just hospitalized is a veteran. He was a Marine, and he probably is suffering from PTSD. I don't know if you know the statistic at the VA, at least the official statistic, is 22 veteran suicides per day. When you think about that, I taught a kindergarten class when we were stationed at Fort Polk, Louisiana. And they kept our numbers small because kindergartners, there's so much for them to take in. And so 20 to 21 students was your max. That is more than the entire kindergarten class of these precious little minds, like sponges, wanting to learn and know, wiped out in one day because they felt no reason to go forward. The horrors, the experience, the loss of self, feeling like their life didn't matter, caused them to check out. In that room on Wednesday was a young veteran who'd lost both of his legs. He had a smile that could light up the room. It was not a coincidence that he was in that room, and this lady had just checked her son into the hospital, desperate, but yet holding on to life. When I got home, I began to check in on how he was doing, how she was doing. And she told me, and I'd never met her before, but she knew she had been seen, and she knew she'd been heard, because I had prayed that God would go before us and prepare that room and prepare hearts to hear and ears to hear, to feel that they were taking a sacred pause and a sacred space. That's what we experienced on Wednesday. It was a little miracle. She said, I almost didn't come. She said, I was afraid I would cry through the whole thing. But people shared little miracles, people who made a difference in their life. There are little miracles happening all around us, and we tend to not see. We tend to not pay attention. And if we do, we think it's just a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. Miracles are happening every day. Einstein is attributed with the quote, there are two ways to live your life. One is if nothing is a miracle. The other is if everything is a miracle. I shared with the people who were there that we can become someone else's miracle by choice, with intention. We get up, we write down, who can I add value to today? Write their name. What am I going to do that will make a difference in their life today? How will I do it? When will I do it? Put it on the calendar. Put it in your phone calendar. And then take action. Just do it. 1,000,000 Little Miracles. Our next event, 1,000,000 Little Miracles lunch experience, is offered again. We'll repeat the process on September 17th. It will be, again, a lunch break. It's free. It's a gift to the community. And I invite you to join us. It's not virtual yet. I've had 2 people sign up. One who I know is from Belgium. Today I had someone sign up from Texas. They're assuming there will be a Zoom link. We didn't film this first one, but we will film the second one. And I will make it available for folks out there who are part of our Warrior Wives community. And again, you don't have to be a warrior wife to be part of our community. I want people to know that I care, that you are seen, that you will be heard, that it's a safe space, it's a sacred space, and that you matter. I'll see you next week.